Welcome everyone to it. Today we'll understand object-oriented programming, why it exists, and how it helps us model real-world problems using classes and objects. In the previous session, we learned about handling multiple exceptions and raising exceptions whenever we want to define certain workflow in our code for avoiding bad behaviors or bad data. Uh, in today's session, we will learn why object-oriented programming is used, why it is important, and how we will take an analogy l- comparing it with a real-world scenario, and how we can begin with using classes and object to build better programs. So think of a class like a blueprint for a house. It defines the structure, what rooms it has, what materials are used, and an object is the actual house built from the blueprint. So similarly in code, we define a class once and then we can create many objects from it, each with their own individual data. So this is like a kind of analogy you can think of that you have a class with defined ones, and then each class can be converted to a real world object, and each object will have its own data associated with it that can be stored and fetched whenever required. So first of all, what is a class and object? So the class is the main keyword. Like whenever we talk about object-oriented programming, the class is the main keyword that has to be defined first. So the class will be followed by the class name that we want to define, and we can then create objects of this class. Each object stores its own data separately and perform actions that are defined in the class. No object can perform actions outside of their class. You can manipulate its data and play around that, or pass its value to other functions to update the values. But whatever particular functionality is defined in the class, that will be fixed and that cannot be changed. So for our example here, uh, you can see we are first defining a class called as car. Then any variables defined there like wheels equal to 4, this is what is called as class attributes, meaning these are certain values associated with the class. And then we can create objects. So each object is independent of the other. So car 1 will have its own data, car 2 will have its own separate data, and then we access the class attributes. So when we do car1 dot wheels, this particular value will be printed, and for car2 as well, as this wheels is a common attribute, cars2 will also print 4 wheels. But let's say we want to have multiple objects from single class with different values. So each time, like as I mentioned, each time we create an object from a class, it is a unique instance. And to have or add more object attributes specifically for an one single object, what you can do is you can simply use that object dot whatever variable name you want to give equal to its value. So that particular value will be independent or will be only used for that particular object, and that data will not be shared with the other object despite they both belong to the same class. So here, once my both the objects were created, both the objects were having wheels equal to 4. Now what I'm adding is car 1's color would be red and car 2 color would be blue. So now I will go and try to run this code. So you can see car 1 has wheels 4, car 2 also has wheels 4. But as we assigned here a value dot color red, and here we assigned value as blue. So you can see how the difference is there, and how whenever we assign the value, this particular object stored the value here. For car 1 it's red and for car 2 it's blue, despite both belonging to the same class car. Now Talking about the main four pillars of object-oriented programming, the fundamental concepts that support how object-oriented programming works, basically in Python or in other languages. So the first one we have is encapsulation. So encapsulation it bundles data and methods that work on the data within a class, and it restricts direct access from outside. So think of it as using some private data types or private variables and access methods such that uh, any other function cannot access those methods and variables for the security purposes. So you can think of it like, let's say, you have a medicine capsule, and the data or the medicine is hidden inside the cell so that the content is not spilled out, or the content is not, let's say, it doesn't worsen due to the outer conditions. In our case, the values do not get manipulated by the the outer functions or outer code cells. Then we have abstraction. So abstraction hides internal complexity and show only relevant details. So like using a TV remote, we do not know what the circuit is inside, but we just know how to use it. Then inheritance. So one class can inherit features from other. So it's similar to how the inheritance works with the humans or animals. So like let's say there is an animal class, and dog class can inherit something from the animal class, what it eats. Maybe dog eats something common with other animals, and an animal eats something, or let's say an animal you also breathes, right? So whatever breathing pattern the dog follows, maybe that kind of an basic inheritance variables the dog class can inherit from another class like animal class. Then we have polymorphism. So a function name can behave differently depending on the context. For example, you can have a draw function. Inside it, there is conditions that if the user only wants a circle, or it wants a rectangle each, where the user passed the length and width same, so that actually rectangle function will draw a square. It won't draw an rectangle. And if the user passed different values for length and width, the rectangle will be created. So that's how I mean to say function name is same, but it can behave differently depending upon the user input and the context. So we will explore each of this in detail in the upcoming sessions. So in today's session, we explored the basics of object-oriented programming, from why we use it to how we define classes and create objects. We also got a brief introduction to the four key principles that guide the OOP design. In the next session, we'll move from static classes to dynamic ones, learning how to initialize objects with specific data using the init method. We'll understand what is a self parameter in the objects and the classes when we create them, and start creating personalized objects that behave like real world items. So yeah, thank you for joining today's session. Let's meet in the next session. Have a nice day.